Hello, students. Good morning. Students, as we are studying our 10th chapter, that is respiration in organisms. So, this is the second part of this chapter, and in this part, we are going to study these topics. So, first one is respiration and gases exchange in human beings, then mechanism of breathing, breathing in animals, breathing in plants, and at last we will see plant respiration and photosynthesis. So, first of all, we will see respiration and gases exchange in human beings. So, students, as we have studied about digestion, in the process of digestion, we have studied whatever we eat after the process of digestion, that larger food molecules get digested into the smaller and simpler parts. And these simpler parts, suppose we are talking about carbohydrates. So, when digestion of carbohydrates takes place, so after digestion, carbohydrate get converted into glucose. Or we have studied about digestion of fat get digested into fatty acid and glycerols. Then proteins get digested into amino acids. So suppose we are talking about glucose, well, respiration takes place on others also, on fatty acids and amino acids also. But suppose first of all we are talking about glucose. So these digested nutrients as glucose, they are the energy rich food, means they are the energy rich nutrients. So digested food means glucose is carried to all the cells of our body by the blood circulatory system. This blood circulatory system we will study in our next chapter. So the human beings obtain energy from the digested food, suppose we can say glucose or amino acids also, by the process of respiration, which takes place in every cells of our body. And in human beings, many organs take part in the process of respiration. So the series of organs which are responsible for taking in oxygen and expelling out carbon dioxide, so these series of organs are called organs of respiratory system, and it makes all these organs, they collectively they make a system. That system is called respiratory system. The primary organ of this respiratory system are the lungs, in which exchange of gases takes place, and some other organs of the human respiratory systems you can see in the image given. The nasal cavity means nose. It has two openings called nostrils. Then it makes a cavity. It's make a passage, which is called nasal cavity. Then pharynx, larynx. After that, trachea or windpipe. Then a bronchi, and it enters in the lungs, and then it divides into bronchioles, and further it forms sac-like structure. These are alveoli. So these are the organs of human respiratory system. So let's start with nose. So as we know that air enters the body through the nose. Externally, we can say the nose consists of two nostrils, and these nostrils leads to a passage. It's make a way. It makes a cavity. That cavity is called nasal cavity or nasal passage, and these nostrils are lined by membranes that are coated with moist sticky mucus, and some of the membranes have moved cilia, means tiny hairs are present in the nasal cavity, and as air passes over the membranes, it is warmed and moistened, means the air we inhale, its temperature differs from the body temperature. So when we inhale it, that air comes to the temperature of body temperature, and the dust particles falling on the sticky surface are swept out by these tiny hairs towards the throats. So where these dust particles, either they are swallowed or curved up, and this removes most of the large foreign particles from the air, means so many other pollens or other type of particles are also present in air, inhaled air, which may be harmful for human body. So these dust particles or foreign particles, including pollens, etc., these are removed by these sticky mucus or tiny hairs. Next one is pharynx. So nasal cavity, it leads to it leads to the pharynx, and this pharynx is a common chamber for food and air. Means this pharynx, it opens into two tube like structure. First one is esophagus or food pipe that we have studied in second chapter, and one more pipe like structure, that is windpipe or trachea. And the air passes through the pharynx and enters the trachea or windpipe, which is in the middle of the neck. Then next one is larynx. So larynx is also called as voice box, and it is located in the trachea, short distance from the. It is at the short distance from the throat. The larynx, it contains vocal cord that vibrates, making sounds as air passes over them. Next one is trachea or windpipe. So larynx, it continues into the trachea. This trachea is about 12 centimeter long and 2.5 centimeter in diameter. And the walls of the trachea, it has rings of a flexible support tissue, that is cartilage, which prevent it from collapsing. And cells lining the trachea also have cilia. Cilia means tiny hairs. So the cells of trachea, they also have tiny hairs which help to prevent germs and harmful substances which are getting entered into the lungs. Now next one is bronchi. So the trachea divides into two tubes, the right and left bronchi. Its singular is bronchus. And after the air has passed into the trachea, it enters the bronchi. Means after trachea, trachea divides into two bronchi, left and right bronchi. And each bronchus, singular is bronchus, so each bronchus enters a lung, and the air is further pulled into branches of bronchi, and the bronchi then further divided into small tube-like structures called bronchioles. And these bronchioles, they get very narrow toward the end, and here also tiny hairs are present, so they lined up the bronchi and bronchioles, which also help in removing the small particles. After that, these bronchioles, they end in thin-walled pouch-like air sacs. These air sacs are called alveoli. So you can see the diagram of alveoli, the sac-like structure, which is blue in color. You can see it is alveoli. So each lung, they may contain millions of alveoli or air sacs. And the walls of these air sacs or alveoli have a large number of very thin tubes, or we can say blood capillaries. And the oxygen from the air, it brought into the lungs, means the air which we inhale, that air comes through the, we inhale it through the nostrils, then they come to the nasal cavity. After that, they comes to the pharynx, then trachea, then bronchus, and from bronchus they come to the bronchioles, and bronchioles into the sac-like structure, that is alveoli. So the air we inhale, it contains 21% of oxygen. So that oxygen brought into the lungs, they goes into the alveoli, and then they diffuses into the blood. So you can see the diagram of alveoli in and at the wall of alveoli you can see the blood vessels also. So in this blood, carbon dioxide is present in more amount and oxygen is present in less amount, whereas when we inhale air, at the same time this air sac contains lots of oxygen and very less amount of carbon dioxide. So exchange of gases takes place by the process of diffusion. So one more important thing is there, that is diffusion. What is diffusion? Diffusion is a process of in which movement of molecules takes place from their higher concentration to lower concentration. Means if any molecule is present in one area, it is present in high amount, so it will move from its higher concentration where it is present in high amount to the area, to the region where it is present in small amount. So we can say air, in that air which we have inhaled, that air contains lots of oxygen, and the blood which is present in blood capillary, that blood contains very small amount of oxygen. So obviously oxygen diffuses through air sac to the blood capillary, because in alveoli, in air sac, amount of oxygen is more as compared to the blood capillary. So through the process of diffusion, you can see oxygen is entering into the blood capillary, whereas the mm, air sac contain less amount of carbon dioxide, but the blood vessel contain high amount of carbon dioxide, because this carbon dioxide blood is collecting from all the cells, and now here amount of carbon dioxide is high as compared to the amount of carbon dioxide present in air sac. So here also carbon dioxide diffuses from its higher concentration to lower concentration. Now carbon dioxide will move out from blood capillary to the air sac. So just like that, as air from the air, oxygen diffuses through air sac to the blood vessel, to the blood capillary. Just like that, carbon dioxide comes to the air sac. So here one more thing, oxygen is carried to different parts of the body by red blood cells in the blood. So we know that our blood is red in color, and the cells of blood are red because of presence of one iron pigment called hemoglobin. So about this thing we will study in next chapter, that hemoglobin of blood combines with oxygen in the alveoli to form oxyhemoglobin, means the oxygen our blood capillary is taking through air sac or alveoli, that blood that oxygen with mixed with hemoglobin present in blood, and now it will form oxyhemoglobin, and then it is carried by the blood to different tissues of body. Oxygen diffuses into the cells of the body as blood passes through different tissues, and from the tissues, blood picks up carbon dioxide and its compound and water, and these are then transported by the blood to alveoli, from where they are eliminated. Means at the same time, you can see carbon dioxide which is present in blood capillary, which is coming in the alveoli. That carbon dioxide is collected by blood from the cells after the process of respiration is completed, and carbon dioxide is produced as a waste product, and at the same time oxygen is entering into the blood capillary, which we have inhaled. So in inhaled air, oxygen we are taking, that oxygen through alveoli, it is entering in the blood, and after the process of respiration, the carbon dioxide our cells have produced, that carbon dioxide is entering in the alveoli, that we exhale. So this is all about alveoli. Now students, our main organ of respiratory system or primary organ of respiratory system are lungs. So we know that lungs are a pair of elastic organ present in the chest cavity of the body. Chest cavity means in the thorax part of the body, and the sides of chest are bounded by the ribs. We know that our lungs, two lobes of lungs are there, right and left lungs, and these two lobes of lungs, they are present in the rib cage. Rib cage means the cage like structure which is made by 12 pairs of ribs. So about this we have studied in 6th class also, that 12 pairs of ribs are present, and these 12 pair of ribs are present in the our thorax part, and they at the back side they are joined to the backbone, and at the front side they are joined with the sternum or breastbone. 12 pairs are present, and out of these 12 pairs of ribs, two pairs lower pairs of ribs, they are only joined with the backbone at the back side, and at the front side they are not joined with breastbone or our sternum, and that's why they are called floating ribs. So our lungs are present in the chest cavity, which is encased in the rib cage, and now at the thorax part is separated from the abdomen part below by the diaphragm. So diaphragm is a curved sheet which is made up of muscles and present below the lungs, and these rib cage can be contracted or expanded by the action of muscles which are present between the ribs and the muscles of the diaphragm. And the two lungs are there, right lung and left lung. Right lung is somewhat larger, and it has 3 lobes, and left lung, it is somewhat smaller with two lobes. So right lung is larger than the left lung because left lung needs to make room. It has to make space for the heart also. So this is about all about our respiratory system, means different organs of respiratory system we have studied, starting from our nose to the lungs. One more time, I just want to repeat it. The whole process of respiration, what happens first, we inhale air, means that as we have studied, our respiration process is divided into two parts, that is internal respiration or external respiration or breathing, and internal respiration or cellular respiration. So first we start with breathing. In breathing we have studied that two phases are there, that is inhalation and exhalation. So first what happens, first we inhale the air which is present in the atmosphere, same air we inhale which contains 21% of oxygen and 0.03% of carbon dioxide. So that inhaled air enters in our nasal passage or nasal cavity through our nostrils. Through our nostrils, that inhaled air, which is rich in oxygen, it enters to our pharynx. Through pharynx, it enters to the trachea or windpipe. Then windpipe divided into two tube-like structure, that is left and right bronchi, singular is bronchus. Then these two bronchus, left and right bronchus, they enters in the right and left lungs respectively. Then these bronchus they divide into tiny tube-like structures. These tube-like structures are called bronchioles, and now the bronchioles are expanded or ends into tiny sac-like structures. These sac-like structures are called alveoli. So when we inhale air, it enters to the nostrils. Through nostrils, it enters to the pharynx, then trachea or windpipe, then bronchus, then bronchioles, and then to the alveoli or air sac. And the wall of air sac is completely surrounded by blood capillaries. That blood capillaries has impure blood because that blood contains lots of high amount of carbon dioxide and very less amount of oxygen. So from where this carbon dioxide comes in the blood capillary? So that carbon dioxide comes by the process of respiration, that the process of respiration which is performed by each and every cells of our body. That carbon dioxide as a byproduct, as a waste produced during the process of respiration, is collected by our blood, and that blood contains in blood capillary which is present on the walls of alveoli. So by the process of diffusion, carbon dioxide which is present in high amount in blood capillary get diffused in the air sac or alveoli, and the high amount of oxygen that we have taken, that we have inhaled through the air, that oxygen enters into the blood capillary, and that blood capillary, now it contains high amount of oxygen, so it goes to the heart, and heart pumps into the whole body. That will you will study in next chapter. So from here, the carbon dioxide which is collected in the air sac, again this carbon dioxide moves out from the air sac to the bronchioles, through bronchioles to the bronchus, then bronchus to the trachea, the pharynx, and then pharynx to the nasal cavity, and from nasal cavity it comes out through the nostrils, and this process is called exhalation. So this is the whole process of respiration. Now I think you all understood this process. Now we will see next topic, that is mechanism of breathing, means how the process of breathing takes place. So we know that breathing is a physical process because there is no any involvement of formation of new substance, or there is no any involvement of any type of enzymes. So breathing is a physical process that involves two processes, that is inhalation and exhalation. So first we will see the mechanism of inhalation. So during inhalation, means when we inhale air inside our body, what happens? The rib muscles, means the muscles which are present along the ribs, these rib muscles contracts, and the front end of the ribs, they moves up and outwards. You can see the diagram also, diagram, and first one you can see rib cage expands and air inhaled, and in next one you can see rib cage gets smaller and air exhaled. So what happened during inhalation? The rib muscles contract and the front end of the ribs, means the rib cage, moves up and outwards. At the same time, the diaphragm which forms the floor of the chest cavity, it moves down and becomes somewhat straight, because first we have studied that diaphragm is curved structure, so it becomes straight, and this increases the volume of this airtight chest cavity, and it decreases the pressure inside the lungs. Now one more thing you have to understand, in 8th chapter, windstorm and cyclone, we have studied about air pressure. There also I've explained you that always air moves from its higher pressure to lower pressure. So what happens in this case during inhalation, when our rib muscles contracts and the rib cage expands, it moves ups and outwards, and diaphragm, which is for earlier it was curved, now it becomes straight. It means they're increasing the volume of the airtight chest cavity. When the volume of the airtight chest cavity increases, then the pressure which is inside the lungs, that pressure also, that cavity increases, it means the pressure decreases. At that time, the pressure inside the rib cage is low as compared to the pressure outside, means outside means in the atmosphere. Okay, so obviously air moves from high pressure to low pressure. So outside pressure is high and inside pressure is very low. So air rushes from outside through the trachea to the air sacs and alveoli, means inside pressure is low, outside pressure is high. So air moves from high pressure to lower pressure. That is why air rushes in. So when it rushes in, obviously it enters through the nostrils and then it comes to the trachea and alveoli. Next one is the mechanism of exhalation. Exhalation means expiration. So what happened in this case? During exhalation, the ribs, they moves down, means the same, the things what happen during inhalation, opposite things will happen in the exhalation. So during exhalation, the ribs moves downwards and inwards, and diaphragm, which has become straight during the inhalation, now it comes to the original position, means it relax, it becomes convex like structure, and the abdominal organs, they take their original position, or everything comes to the original position. So the capacity of chest decreases, means now the volume of the chest cavity decreases and lungs becomes compressed, and the pressure inside the lungs, that pressure inside the chest cavity increases, because everything comes to the normal position. What happened in inhalation? In inhalation, rib cage expands. Here again in exhalation, rib cage compressed. So rib cage compressed, diaphragm also become curved, come to the normal position. It decreases the volume of the chest cavity. When the volume of the chest cavity decreases, now the pressure inside the chest cavity increases. Now the pressure inside the chest cavity increases as compared to the outside pressure. So what happened? Air moves from high pressure to low pressure. So as soon as the pressure inside the chest cavity increases, air start moving from high pressure to low pressure. Now the air from the lungs rushes out through the air passages and air comes out. So this is all about the mechanism of breathing, mechanism of inhalation and mechanism of exhalation. Now one experiment is given, one activity is given to show that air contains carbon dioxide, means how we can say show that exhaled air contains carbon dioxide. So as we know that when we inhale air in atmosphere 0.03% carbon dioxide is present, and when we exhale air, that exhaled air contains 4% of carbon dioxide. So that 4% of carbon dioxide, that increased amount of carbon dioxide, comes from the cells, because our cells perform respiration, and after respiration they form carbon dioxide as a waste product, and that waste product is collected, carbon dioxide is collected by the blood, and it is removed in the alveoli or air sac, and alveoli releases it out as the process of, in the process of exhalation. So we have to show that exhaled air contains carbon dioxide. So for this we need one plastic bottle, test tube, plastic straw, lime water, we know that is calcium hydroxide, we have already studied about lime water, and cork borer. So cork borer is a metal tool which is normally found in chemistry and biology labs, and it is used for cutting a hole like structure in cork or a rubber stopper to insert any glass tube. So what we have to do, first of all, we have to take a clean plastic bottle and we have to make a hole in its lid with the help of cork borer. Then we have to pour some freshly prepared lime water. Lime water means calcium hydroxide in the bottle, and then we have to fix the lid on the bottle. Now insert a plastic straw. Plastic straw, all of you are knowing. So we have to insert a plastic straw through the lid in such a way that it dips in the lime water. Means that plastic straw should touch the, it should be dipped in the lime water. Now we have to blow the exhaled air. Means we have to exhale air into the lime water through that plastic straw for some time, and now we when we observe the color change in the lime water, then we can see the lime water turns milky as soon as we exhale air, and that exhale air get mixed into the lime water. That lime water, which was just like water without any color, which is colorless earlier, now it turns milky. So it turns milky because of the formation of calcium carbonate. You can see the chemical reaction. Calcium hydroxide means CaOH whole twice plus carbon dioxide. It gives CaCO3. CaCO3 means calcium carbonate plus water. So the color of this calcium carbonate is milky, and it is and water is also formed. So the whole solution turns milky because of the formation of calcium carbonate. Means when lime water reacts with carbon dioxide, it forms calcium carbonate, that we have studied in previous chapter. So it means that it proves that our exhaled air contains carbon dioxide. Now students, our next topic is breathing in animals. So like human beings, all other animals such as cow, dogs, elephants, or some reptiles as lizards and snakes, or birds, they also have lungs for breathing. So the process of breathing and respiration in these animals is quite similar to humans, but some means large number of animals are there as earthworms or fish, cockroach, grasshoppers, mosquitoes, house flies, etc. They do not have lungs for breathing. So such animals such as cockroach, grasshopper, mosquitoes, they and ants, they belongs to insects. So their process of breathing and respiration is quite different from human beings. So first of all, we will see breathing in amoeba. Amoeba, as we know, it is unicellular organism. So just as amoeba, paramecium, hydra, etc., they are also very simple organisms. So they do not have any special respiratory organs. Means they are not having well-developed respiratory organs or well-developed respiratory system, because they are aquatic. They live in water, so they are all the time they're in direct contact with water. So oxygen diffuses into their cell membrane from the surrounding water, and carbon dioxide is diffused out. So diffusion, we have studied the movement of molecules from their higher concentration to lower concentration. So water contains high amount of oxygen. So through the process of diffusion, oxygen enters into the cells and carbon dioxide diffuses out. So this is the simplest process of breathing, we can say, in unicellular organisms or simpler organisms like amoeba and hydra, paramecium, etc. Then breathing in earthworms. So earthworms breathes through its skin. The skin of earthworm is very thin and moist, so that gases can pass through the skin of earthworms, and earthworm absorbs the oxygen which is needed for respiration through its thin and moist skin, and then oxygen is transported to all the cells of earthworms by its blood, and just like this, carbon dioxide is diffused from the body of the earthworm through its skin. So simply, a process of breathing takes place through the moist skin. Now, breathing in fish. So as we know that there are many animals that which live in water, and the animals living underwater, they have gills for breathing. And the gills, these are the organs which help the animal living in water to use oxygen dissolved in water for breathing. We know that oxygen is dissolved in water, so gills help them to take oxygen which is dissolved in water. And gills are the projections of the skin, means these are formed from the skin only, and gills have blood vessels for the exchange of these respiratory gases means oxygen and carbon dioxide. So fish live in water, and fish have special organs for breathing, that is gills. We all know that gills are present in fish, so gills help the fish to use oxygen which is dissolved in water. And fish has gills on both the sides of its head, and gills are covered with gill covers so that they are not visible from outside. So for breathing, the fish use the oxygen which is dissolved in water. And the fish, what happens first, fish breathes by taking in water through its mouth, means first of all water is gulped by fish through its mouth and sending it over the gills. And now what water passes over the gills, gill extract dissolved oxygen from this water, and this extracted oxygen is absorbed by the blood and carried to the all parts of the fish for respiration, means for getting energy. And now the carbon dioxide produced by the process of respiration as a byproduct or as a waste product is brought back by the bloods into the gills for expelling into the surrounding water. Okay, so fish has no lungs. Okay, the exchange of gases in fish takes place in the gills. Now, breathing in insects. So all the insects, they have tiny holes on the sides of their body which are called spiracles, and these spiracles you can see in the diagram. These spiracles on the body of insects, they are connected to a network of thin air tubes, and these thin air tubes are called tracheae, which are spread into the whole body of the insects. And the breathing in all the insects takes place through these tiny holes, means spiracles, and thin air tubes means tracheae. So what happens, air which is rich in oxygen enters into the insects through spiracles, the holes which are present at the sides. So air enters through the spiracles by the up and down movement of its body, and then air goes into the network of thin air tubes. That thin air tubes means tracheae. So from the tracheae, oxygen of that air diffuses into the body tissue, means all the body cells of insects, and reaches to each and every cells of its body, where it is utilized in the process of getting energy, in the production of energy, that is respiration. And when carbon dioxide is produced during the process of respiration, so that carbon dioxide also diffuses into the tracheae, and again it is carried out through the spiracles, and the spiracles remove or expel the carbon dioxide by the process of breathing. So we can say in insects, the exchange of gases occurs through tracheae. Now, breathing in plants. So as we know that plants also need energy, and the plants get energy by the process of respiration, in which glucose, means glucose is the food which is prepared by themselves only. It breaks down in the presence of oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water to release energy, means same thing happen as in our body happen. Glucose is broken down to get energy. Plants also do the same thing, but main thing is that they are the food factories. They make their own food, they make own glucose, and that glucose only work as or act as a respiratory material on which respiration takes place. So they also take oxygen, in which they also take air in which oxygen is present, and that oxygen reacts with glucose which are present in their cells, and that glucose is broken down in the presence of oxygen to get energy. So here different parts of plants, as human body have or other animals have well developed respiratory system, that type of respiratory system is not found in plants. So all parts, or we can say all cells of plants body, they do their own respiration because they are not having their own respiratory system. So there we will start with respiration in leaves. So we know that the leaves of the plant, they have tiny pores on the surface, and that tiny pores are called stomata. So the exchange of gases, means oxygen and carbon dioxide, in the leaves during respiration takes place through the stomata. So oxygen from the air, it enters into a leaf through its stomata and reaches all the cells by the process of diffusion, and this oxygen is used in the respiration process in the cells of the leaf, and this again energy is produced along with one waste product is also produced, that is carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide is diffuses out from the leaf through air through the same process by the same thing through the stomata. So we can say that the plant breathes through the tiny pores in their leaves called stomata. Next thing, the stem. When the plants in very younger stage, their stems also have stomata, but as the plants grow, they make very thick stem or trunk, then they have openings. That openings are called lenticels. So lenticels also help in the exchange of gases, means lenticels also do the same work as the work performed by stomata. Then respiration by roots. So respiration in roots, what happened, the roots of a plant, we know they are under the ground, but their root cells also need oxygen to carry out respiration and release energy for their own use. So roots obtain oxygen for breathing and respiration from the soil. What happened, air is present in between the particles of soil, we all know. Okay, so what happened, the roots of plants take up the air from the spaces between the soil particles, and the roots of plant have a very large number of tiny hairs which are present on the root, and these tiny hairs are called root hairs. So the root hairs, they are in contact with the air in the soil particles, and oxygen from the air in soil particle diffuses into the root hair and reaches all the cells of the root, where it is utilized in the respiration, and carbon dioxide produced in the cells of the root during respiration process goes out through the same root hair by the process of diffusion. So respiration in roots occur by the exchange of gases through the root hair. So this is all about the process of respiration which takes place in leaf, stems and roots. Now, plant respiration and photosynthesis. So we all know that green plants make their own food by the process of photosynthesis. They make glucose by combining water and carbon dioxide, and this thing they do in the presence of sunlight with the help of chlorophyll. As we know that sunlight is trapped in the chlorophyll, that energy is trapped in the chlorophyll, and that energy is used to combine carbon dioxide and water together, and they form glucose as their food. Okay, and oxygen is also produced in this reaction, that is photosynthesis. Now when a plant needs energy, it releases its from the glucose in the same way as animals do, the process of respiration, by the process of respiration. So one difference is there. We human beings or other animals, we have to eat food, and then we digest it, and the digested nutrients are reaches to our cells, and then we take oxygen, and that oxygen broken down our food to produce energy, and that process is called respiration. But in plants there is no need to take food, because they are the food makers, they are the food producers. They make their own food, and that glucose is stored in their all cells. Just they have to take oxygen. So during the daytime, photosynthesis process and respiration process, they both processes takes place simultaneously. Okay, so at the daytime, at what happened, both carbon dioxide and oxygen, both are taking place. Both plants take both carbon dioxide and oxygen during the daytime, because both processes takes place during the daytime. But in night, what happened, only respiration process takes place. So we can say the photosynthesis produce oxygen. That oxygen is again utilized, by some of the oxygen is utilized in the respiration process, and some of the oxygen is released in the atmosphere through the stomata. At the same time, plants do respiration also. So for that respiration, the stomata or lenticels, or if roots are performing respiration process, then they take oxygen from the root hair, from the soil. So they take oxygen, and their cells already have glucose, so they that glucose is broken down in the presence of oxygen, and again that carbon dioxide produced in the process of respiration. So that carbon dioxide produced during the process of respiration, most of that carbon dioxide is utilized in the process of photosynthesis. When you will see their chemical equations, then you can see both the processes are chemically opposite. Okay, so most of the carbon dioxide which is produced in the process of respiration by plants, that carbon dioxide is utilized by the plant itself, and some of the carbon dioxide is releases. But at night, what happen, at night only respiration takes place, because no sun will be there in the night. So photosynthesis process does not takes place at the night. So what happen, only plants take in oxygen, and there is no carbon dioxide, there is no use of carbon dioxide by the plants at night. So all carbon dioxide is released as a byproduct. So we also heard that, and we know that, so it is very dangerous to sleep under a tree at night. So this is the process of plant respiration and photosynthesis. They both processes are interconnected, they are interlinked in the plants. So this is all about plant respiration and photosynthesis. So there is, we can say, we can differentiate between photosynthesis and respiration. That is, in photosynthesis, we can say food is synthesized, whereas in respiration, food is broken down. Then in photosynthesis, oxygen is released as a byproduct, and in respiration, carbon dioxide is released as a byproduct. In photosynthesis, chlorophyll and sunlight both are required, but in respiration there is no need of chlorophyll and sunlight. In photosynthesis process, there is a need of sunlight, means there is a need of solar energy to perform this action, and in respiration energy is released. So these are the differences between the process of photosynthesis and respiration. Now some understanding based questions are there. So first one is, name the muscular floor of chest cavity. Then how does exchange of gases takes place in alveoli? Name an animal in which exchange of gases takes place during breathing through its thin and moist skin. Then name the red pigment in blood which carries oxygen in the human body. And why does the composition of inhaled air and exhaled air differ? And why should we breathe through our nose? So try to find out the answers of these questions. Okay, thank you, students.